I start
I
singing,
like
that's-
America the
that's
Beautiful.
end of
That's
the
the
report.
one I would like to see. Huh?
I like the map.
America the Beautiful
It's
is
a
the
nice
one that
song.
I think should
It's a
be our
nice song,
anthem.
only sung by people who know
But
how to
it's,
sing.
it's sort of hypocritical these days.
The PSR right now, it's just, they're on their page.
Thanks, Fred.
Can't be on.
Okay, got it.
Everybody having a good summer?
Uneventful.
My kids just got home after 7 weeks away today,
Ah,
so my
sorry.
summer's over.
Sorry.
Thanks.
All right.
First 10 minutes are great.
All right, 10 seconds.
There's none of that.
Okay, welcome, all those in TV land. This is the Village of Rybrook Planning Board meeting. Let's all who are here rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My name is Rob Goodman. I'm Chair of the Planning Board. Also in attendance tonight are my planning colleagues John Gerzan, Amy Schoen, Ed Teig, and Lenny Vaisman. Also in attendance is our village attorney, Robert Zitt, our superintendent of public works, who shall be here soon, Michael Nowak, and our village planning consultant from Hardesty and Hanover, Sarah Brown. And also, always, thank you, Tara Orlando, for coordinating this meeting and doing the minutes, which is our first item on the agenda. Does anyone have any comments concerning the minutes? Okay.
Great
Where-
job by Tara. Those minutes were hard to do.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
hard
she
to
did a
plug
good job.
out. Yeah, and should we wait for Mike, or where is he? He does the count.
He was here just a minute ago. Robert can do it.
Oh, Robert. Oh, thank you. Can I have a motion and second to adopt the minutes?
Moved.
Second.
Amy.
Amy and I second.
Mr. Grzan?
Yes.
Excuse. Michelle?
Yes. Sorry.
Mr. T?
Yes.
Wiseman?
Yes, sir.
Chairman Good.
Yes. Okay. Our first item, we have two items, two local laws. And the first is a moratorium on review and approval of applications for battery energy storage systems.
Can we just
And-
go back to the item that was deferred for the next meeting?
Oh, which
Kingfield.
one? Kingsfield? Yeah.
The applicant did that on their own. I guess they
Yes,
didn't-
he did.
They didn't have the report ready or what?
No,
Okay.
no,
All right.
no. They're going to be back in September when you're covering me, unfortunately.
Okay, then you will definitely handle it when you come back in October.
Yeah. If it takes that, yeah. Although, John, your efficiency is not outdone by anybody, so it makes.
No, we are, I know we are the, but we do not have to take up the resolution that at the time we close the public hearing. We can actually do the resolution the following meeting.
You
I think we've been doing that almost
Yeah.
every meeting, but that's almost like an exception by the bylaws.
Well, I mean, we can always extend when there's an adjournment, we can always extend the public hearing. Or we can close the public hearing and then take a vote the following meeting.
I
We
don't
can do
know,
whatever,
yeah.
whatever the board wants
I
to
think
do.
if something that it's not difficult, yes, but sometimes you may need, a little more time after the meeting to
It's-
digest
yeah.
what transpired.
Well, I think that you'll come to a consensus on that.
Okay,
I think
that's fine,
everyone will
yeah.
probably,
Okay.
but that's fine.
Okay.
On the moratorium relating to battery energy storage systems, Mike, when
Thanks.
you're ready, why don't you give us a background of this? Because I wasn't really knowledgeable about this area, and it's actually quite interesting. Thank you.
I got it pulled up on my screen out
The battery energy storage?
Right, yeah. What are they, and why are we concerned about them?
Okay, so battery energy storage systems are portable units that are being installed as green technology They are adaptive to multiple installations. They're basically tractor-trailer size containers that hold lithium-ion batteries within them. They have a self-contained cooling system to keep them cool, and they are installed 1, 2, 5, 20, 80 of them. It depends on where they're going and how big you want to build a system, okay? So these are installed, hooked up to the grid to do a number of things. They can supplement the power grid if there's a low voltage situation. So when there's a heat wave and Con Edison reduces the voltage by 10%, these lithium-ion batteries can be pulled into service to add that extra voltage into the grid. They can be utilized in storm situations where they could power a certain portion of a grid at a given time. So for example, during a hurricane, they could power that municipality or they could power the grid for X amount of hours,
Mike,
potentially.
who is the they?
The system.
Is this
Hold on, we will get into that,
Okay.
okay? So these units can do a multitude of things. They are usually either powered from the grid directly as a renewable battery, like your drill has a battery or your cell phone has a battery. They could be recharged at nighttime and then used during the day during peak demands. They could be utilized with a solar array system. So if you have a solar field, they could harness the solar energy, store it, and then offload it into the grid. They could be connected to windmills, okay, or hydroelectric plants. So these units basically sell back electric back to the grid, back to the either NYSEG, Con Edison, whoever. Now, with regards who owns them, who is the they, it could be a number of entities. It could be private partnerships, could be large corporations. There are companies who specialize in this, could be private investors.
But Con Edison has to purchase this.
No,
No?
this is not purchased through a utility. These are standalone units. There are grants out there from multiple agencies. There are grants from the state to promote green technology. This falls under that grant. It could be private people who own 30 acres, 50 acres, who could say, we're going to obtain a grant through one of these companies who
So it's like
specializes
having your
in
own
it.
generator.
It's basically a battery bank. It's basically a battery
Does
bank.
this exclude the residential use? Like I know Tesla makes one that can go in your basement.
Correct.
Not
So
the
this
size
is
of it?
more of a commercial level.
Okay.
There's what's called there's what's called a tier 1 and a tier 2. So tier 1 is like up to 500 megawatts. 500 kilowatts, and then anything over 500 is a tier 2.
So this is just tier 2 we're talking about.
Tier 1 and tier 2, I believe. I don't know if this spells out tier 1 and tier 2, but this, I believe, would just call out any BESS.
So even like
system.
homes couldn't install.
No.
Okay.
Homes can still have it. The homes could still
Okay.
have a battery backup system. This does not
Okay.
impact someone who wants to have a battery backup connected to their home, like a Tesla system or whatever a brand. And when we talk about name brands, we're not here, throwing out name brands to knock them or anything. That's just a descriptive.
Mike, it seems to me like you are introducing, the way you describe it, you are introducing a third party to electric grid. Yeah, at one time, it used to be only one party, the manufacturer and the distributor. Now, we usually have one party is the manufacturer or producer, generator, and the other party is the overhead distribution. It's almost now there is a third party that's going to be almost like a stock market that's going to be speculative, buying on low and selling on high.
That's one of the
So they-
aspects of having these
I thought
installed.
that these battery banks are usually set up by the generator, so that when they generate the electricity at the high demand, they are not storing energy, of course. But when the demand is low, then somebody's still generating that cheap electricity, and it goes into the batteries. So there is a lot of, it's totally a new player in the business.
It's been going on with solar for a while, though, because people are able to,
Yeah, but the solar is a generator. They're generating that.
that's right.
Here is, these
And
people
it's
are
sold
not
back.
generating.
That's good, it's sold back to the.
So
grid.
this could be utilized one of three ways. It could be just utilized as a bank, like a regular battery bank, and then it offloads its power at a time that's needed, and then it recharges at nighttime.
Well, if you have a
Okay.
big business, you can offload to yourself. But this one is going to be offloading most likely to the grid.
Correct, which
So-
goes
Yes.
on a slot in the grid, yes.
And the grid like Con Edison, in many cases, they have to take the energy. They have no choice. They have to take it.
Does it overload Con Edison?
No, it actually supplements Con Edison, so it supplements the grid, let's put it that way. Let's not talk about the companies, but it supplements the grid. So, but once again, it depends how it's installed, depends how it's powered. Okay,
Yes.
that's your question, Mr. Grzan, is, well, where does the power come from? Certain ones are just installed as a battery bank that charges during low demand and then backfeeds the grid during a need. Others are powered by a solar generator
Yeah.
or a windmill and it's held as a storage, because right now solar just offloads into the
We
grid.
had this for years and years, but it was not the battery. It was a reservoir.
Yeah.
Same idea.
You generate hydro during the day and you use up. During the night, you still have the water. So what do? You pump that water to the reservoir, and then during the day, the water comes back and you generate. So
Same concept, but your medium now is lithium ion instead of water, correct?
So you have more couple issues with this. One is, of course, safety, and the other one, there is quite a bit of regulation involved here.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, what is the, I think the governor spoke to this.
Yes.
What are the concerns that she has raised that
Radiation.
we should,
Fire.
that the moratorium is going to give us an opportunity to do some due diligence on this issue? What are the sort of issues that we should be looking at?
So the due diligence in this regard is for first responders. Obviously, like any lithium ion fires, batteries, very, very hard to extinguish. The protocol is basically to let them burn out and keep pouring water on them to cool it off as best as you can, keep the area safe. Okay, so that's number one priority. Explosions are always a concern. Air quality, when these things catch fire, are always a concern. Their proximity to wetlands. There's a number of concerns that have been documented through a number of agencies and municipalities all over about these things. Key is to remember also that this technology is evolving, so lithium-ion batteries, their compositions are changing. So even when these units were introduced a year or two ago and have started becoming more mainstream, that version of lithium has changed over the years. Now, for example, I'm hearing there's new composition of lithium-ion with magnesium in it that's more stable. So this technology is evolving as it's going around. There is history of them catching on fire. There's a database that tracks them. There were 3 or 4 of these that caught fire in New York State within the last year or two as well. So there's a history of that. But the main concerns are the location of them, the size of them, the proximity of them to residential neighborhoods, life safety, obviously first responder.
Noise.
Noise, not so much. There is noise cumulative from the condensers and the AC units that are built into these enclosures. But yes, noise, if you have 10, 20 of these in an area, yeah, that gets cumulative. Aesthetics comes into play,
Yeah.
So it's a number of things that come into play. And then sometimes there are situations where you need that interconnect to the power system. Okay,
That's
so
right.
sometimes
You
you
need
need
approval, yeah.
a transformer.
Yeah.
You need proper infrastructure to tie into the grid. So now that turns into another discussion where these are situated on one property. There's a subdivided parcel where now the transmission lines come into a substation, let's say. That might be the wrong term, but might be a substation, and that's on a separate lot where these tie into that, and the substation ties into the grid. So it just opens up a caveat, and there are procedures in place that can circumvent local authority on
they
the state level and
cause-
federal level to permit these things and override local
Right.
jurisdiction.
Even if they supplement the power companies, the utilities, isn't there a risk of them interrupting them as well? I mean, as well as disrupting, if something happens to these systems and they're attached to the grid, doesn't something happen to the grid? I can't imagine
No,
that the grid would,
they
no?
get
They shut off
disconnected.
right
They
away?
get disconnected instantaneously.
Even if there's a fire?
This is instantaneous, same like your house.
Mr. Grzan's an electrical engineer
No,
who
I know.
has
Yeah,
more power distribution
Yeah.
experience than I do,
Yeah.
but from my experience, there are safeties in place. That's why you have a substation that interconnects. You have other
Okay.
safeties. Can something happen? Listen, we've seen the great blackout of
Right.
what, the 2000 or whenever that was. Yeah, anything could still happen even with safeties
No,
in place.
My
but
thought is, I mean, if there, a lot of them in one area, concentrated in one area, that would concern me a lot more than if there was a big system somewhere, one system connected to the grid. I think that the chance of disruption or harm or whatever.
These are independent
an
of the-
untoward event.
These are
is more
independent
likely.
of the power grid. Remember that the power grid is the backbone. The power grid operates as a normal power grid. These are little add-ons to the grid, so they're separate. So if 10 of these go down, that's fine. They have no bearing on the system. But once again, you lose that additional voltage regulation, that modulation that you could backfeed the grid in a certain area to take care of that. But think of it this way: 50, 70 years already, 100 years, electric has been out there. Con Ed's been reducing voltages for years. Or utility companies, I should say, have been doing it. So have electronics been hurt over the years? Yes, there's certain things that could be hurt, but these supplement the grid in times of use. They are incentivized. They are a financial investment, and there is financial gain in them. Okay, but from our
Follow the
perspective,
money.
we need to determine life safety things. We need to determine codes, proper procedures, placement of these units, what zones can they be permitted in, because right now they are permissible in a lot of our codes,
So it
in
sounds
a
like-
lot of our zoning codes.
So it sounds like we're waiting for someone from the New York State to update the fire code based on whatever findings they might find. Then we can change local laws. And in the meantime, we're here to vote on a moratorium on people being able to apply for these. I'm just making sure I understand correctly.
So the village board is considering the moratorium as part of that process. They send the legislation to the planning board, and the planning board just provides input or what's a report and recommendation.
I
So what's,
think, Robert, it's no brainer that the moratorium is a good thing. I mean, that's just so evident. Because we don't have much in the code in terms, other than chapter 13, which deals with the electrical installations.
it's
There
new.
is nothing in the
Yeah.
code that takes care of these specific, very technical devices. So moratorium, as far as I'm concerned, it's a blessing.
Sounds like we
Right.
got vote.
No,
I think what we need to look at it, governor is speaking for the state as a whole. A lot of open land, a lot of opportunity for development, and of course, it's going to improve the grid. Everybody looks to improve. But if you look at the village, and a little reading that I did, other than the residential units, which could be probably installed as of right, Large scale, which are utility units, are the question. And then there is a commercial units, which is the middle one. Unless some big developer comes in and wants to put a big office building in the Rybrook and wants to have a battery pack, so that they can, adjust the rates and play with the rates, I don't see much in the terms of us or
Well,
the
but
dealing with the
It,
residential.
it sounds to me, though, that you could have an investment group buy up whatever land they can buy up, and they put one of these facilities in it, not just for Rybrook, but for all of Westchester.
There is,
And then it's a big
if
thing.
you look at our code right now, there was no way in the heck that they could come and do that in a
So
in
no
Village of
land.
Rybrook.
No,
With the current code, there it's absolutely not.
no.
The way our zoning is laid out. But, okay, precautionary.
So I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of it right now because that's for a later discussion. However, I will tell you on a state and federal level, there are procedures that are in place that will override
They're gonna
local
oh.
municipal
They're
codes.
gonna mandate,
Okay?
Yeah.
And they're out there, I don't have it in front of me, but there are procedures in place where things like this could be permitted in places that a municipality may not want. And there are small businesses around the state that are on 2-3 acres that have 4 or 5 of these units on them, okay? There's grant money out there. There's ways to do this. There are programs to promote this in place. So there are ways around codes if there are no specific codes. So the
so basically.
goal here is to,
Local code, yeah, the local code
correct, to
takes
establish
precedence,
local,
yeah.
well, takes precedence, correct, but yeah.
So the purpose is to guard against it, not necessarily to improve it, the quality of life, but to guard against detriment to the quality of life. That's really what we
Well,
are
I-
saying.
Sounds like it's to wait for the code to be updated.
Yeah, I think it's just a new tech.
Safeguard the village and the residents.
I think it's just a new technology that no one really knows what the ramifications of it are. The current law doesn't really regulate it. And I think right now, fortunately, there's really no one that has filed an application for approval of any of these units. So essentially, we're trying to get ahead of the curve before someone knocks on the door and says, we want to put in one of these units, and we don't necessarily want it, but we also don't have any regulations governing it. And that is actually, when I heard this, it justified in my mind why we needed this meeting,
Well,
because
yeah.
we need to get the moratorium
Yeah.
in place before it attracts people that want to game the system
I
and
said,
don't want to.
Question.
I said it's no-brainer for a moratorium.
Yeah.
If we,
vote.
Definitely
Yeah.
needed.
So, yeah,
if we do a moratorium here, can the state override that?
I think the way it's written, that some judge can override certain sections of the law, but not the entire law.
Yeah, I mean, the state would have to invalidate home rule.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, so, yeah.
The state would have to invalidate home rule. It would be a whole show. So I don't know that there's something that the state could do
okay.
in immediacy.
I think there appears to be a consensus that the resolution requesting a moratorium, that our report and recommendations, that's a good idea. We also have this other local law. Do you want us to do them together or separately?
Separate would probably be best.
Okay.
So if you want, the resolution, if somebody would make it, would be to, sorry? Well, it would be to issue the report and recommendation as prepared. One of the comments was that the planning board concurs with the law as proposed, the law being the moratorium. So you would just make a motion, second, run through the vote to send the report and recommendation to the
we
village
would-
BOT.
What would the report and recommendation, basically, the gist of the report and
It's
recommendation?
the gist of the, the gist of the report is that the planning board concurs that
It's a good idea.
It's a good idea,
Right,
yeah.
Okay.
Right, right.
Not necessarily that these things are gonna reduce my electric bill.
No,
there's gonna be
your
discussion.
electric bill,
That's gonna
yeah.
give her.
That's all we're gonna come back to.
Yeah, I mean, we support basically the local law this.
Yes, absolutely,
So-
absolutely.
So, let me see, we need to approve that, and then we need to send it on to the Board of Trustees, so we need two actions, so, okay, with respect to the,
So it would be
the
a-
report and recommendation.
Motion to adopt it
we're
as
a
drafted.
I need a motion and a second to adopt the recommendation supporting the local law.
Motion
Okay,
to
let me just
adopt.
Ask a question. Once this moratorium is in place, there would be a separate directive or the request to study the changes in the code that would be required.
Once it's sent back to the BOT,
Yes,
that's
okay.
what they're gonna be
So we
doing.
will have an opportunity to debate what changes
Oh,
are
yeah.
necessary.
It's all gonna come back.
I'm sure it's
Yeah.
gonna
No
come back.
different than any.
All right,
law.
sure, understand, good.
So, who motion?
Move.
I did.
A second, I'll second.
Mr. Grzan?
Yes,
Mr. Richards not here. Ms. Schoen?
Yes.
Mr. Teague?
Yes.
Mr. Weissman?
Yes, sir.
Chairman Goodman?
Yes.
Sorry.
And also, we need a motion and a second to send the report and recommendation to the Board of Trustees. And transmit it to them,
Second?
Second.
and the chairman would sign on that report and recommendation. You don't need the meeting or the board to review and approve the report and recommendation. You
No,
will-
no, we're
Okay.
sending it, we're
Yeah,
sending it on to them.
let's make sure that that's understood,
We're
because
s-
you
we're
don't have
sending it
time.
on to them right now.
Yeah, okay,
Mr. Grzan?
yes,
Ms. Schoen?
Yes.
Mr. Teague?
Yes.
Mr. Weissman?
Yes.
Chairman Goodman?
Yes.
Thank you.
There's another local law, thanks for the explanation, Mike. It's interesting technology, you know.
It is. It has a purpose.
Yeah, that's for sure. There is another local law also requesting a moratorium on the review and approval of applications for the conversion of commercial to residential development projects in the village. And what's the background of this, Mike, if you know?
Background of this is pretty much as stated in the local laws to protect the commercial business zones of the village, to protect the future stability of the homestead, non-homestead tax base for the future, and to protect the tax levy of the village and the residents. That's the intent of this local law.
but why we need the moratorium? Right now, you know, if you have a commercial development it's zoned for commercial, how can that be changed to the homestead, the residential 1, 2, or 3 family homes without changing the zoning code? So I don't see the other one was very clear-cut case for me to have a moratorium. I don't see the need or the urgency on this one as
Well,
much.
for instance, affordable housing, though, has a floating zone.
Floating zone for
So
affordable
that would-
housing, certain commercial, and I have to look at the code, but certain commercial and business zones encompass lesser zoning, lesser zoning categories within them. So you could have a business district which will allow a
Residential.
two-family residential zone
Right.
within it, outright. Okay? We've had that in the business district at the north end of the village, where you have a commercial location that went to residential, that built residential outright.
But you could have also, a lot of small businesses could see an opportunity to sell very quickly and
that
make
affects
a
the
killing.
tax base of the village, that affects the
Right.
tax roll, the homestead, non-homestead, which affects the residents. And
Right.
we're looking to protect the residents
Right,
in
exactly.
doing this. So
I
we
am
want to
not-
study what can happen if XYZ happens, what could happen if 1, 2, 3 happens to certain zones. So it's to analyze what are the ramifications in the future. And listen, the code may be, yeah, this is where the village wants to go. The code may be, no, this is not where the village wants to go. So it's to protect the residents.
Essentially, all the years that I have been involved with this board, unwritten thing that drives the development is usually tax base.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that that is the good game plan. I'm not privy to how the board looks at the tax revenue, commercial versus the residential. But I do know from the sitting on this board that there have been properties that have been tried to be developed, stay commercial and to be developed commercial, and that's not moving as fast. I do know for fact that right now there is a very, very strong demand for residential dwelling units in the village.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm in the market for a
That's not
place.
just in the village,
and I
that's all
can,
over the
you
country
know-
and the world, so.
I'm sorry?
That's not just in the village, it's all over the country and
Right.
the world, and, well, and there's also a strong demand for commercial tax base, right? We've also lost as a village a lot of commercial income, which,
Well, but this is, I don't understand. If you lose the commercial tax revenue and you replace that by residential, what is the bottom line? I don't know whoever does the tax custodian.
That's what we're trying to understand. Right now, if you look at the homestead, non-homestead tax rate, which I don't have in front of me, I believe the non-homestead tax rate is much lower than, I'm sorry, the
Higher.
homestead, yes,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Your commercial tax
Right, is
rate
higher.
is much higher than your residential. So when you replace that, you're replacing with a
We're
much
losing money.
lower tax rate.
Right.
So you're losing significant amount of revenue to residential.
That
So
may be true,
so
but
the
I
board
have
wants to
not-
study.
I have not seen the number to support that theory. Everybody that wants to develop a commercial business in the village or any other place, they're looking for a tremendous tax givebacks, all right? And I do know that on the residential side of the equation, the tax base is very set to the price of the house. And if you, any of you that are looking to buy a house in Rybrook, I'm sure you looked at the projected the tax rate, and you know, $40,000, $50,000 per home in Rybrook is nothing unusual these days.
Correct. And the village board and staff, administration have done a great job at staying under the tax cap, managing the rates as best as we can. We move forward every year with whatever credits we could accumulate from the prior year to stay under the tax cap. Okay, we've been under the tax cap just about every single year that it's been in effect. Okay?
What
And
was the last commercial property that was built in the village of Rybrook? I don't recall. I'm not saying that not known. I just don't recall the name.
Kingfield.
Well, Kingston.
That's residential.
That's a
That's
residential.
residential.
That's a
Oh, right, that's
Residential.
right, commercial,
Okay.
yeah.
That's an example of
Okay,
a commercial.
that's an example of-
That went residential.
Correct.
Yeah.
And depending on the economy, you could have businesses that are not making money, that see that
That's what I
converting
just
to
said.
residential is
That's what
actually
I said.
profitable for them.
so, for example, the village has a hotel tax.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That, in its peak, was generating $500,000 to $700,000 in revenue, which offset taxes for residential.
If you have
Okay,
a development like Kingsfield, 100 homes at 40,000, that's $4 million right there. What commercial property was paying $4 million on that property before?
But that's what the village board wants to understand. What was the valuation of that property as a commercial entity? What would have been the tax implications of it as a business entity versus what it is? So this is to analyze the whole village and see where the market's going, where the shift is going from a development perspective, from a residential commercial perspective, and to understand what needs to be done to protect the residents so that we're not burdened with losing a commercial tax base,
And
which
I-
then falls on residents'
Rexon was
shoulders.
having a lot of
Who would do
trouble
this?
So your
selling-
40, 50,000
Yeah.
could become 80, 90,000 when you start losing
Right.
potentially your.
But there are 3 or 4 commercial properties right now that we can name that are idle. That, you know, they came off, I don't know if they came off the tax base, but the businesses are closed. All right?
Yeah, but then you're confronted the issue with when you have failing businesses, what sort of incentives you want to create those owners to do something productive with it. They may decide that they would rather just cash out of the property, sell it to a developer for X millions of dollars, and then, you know, they're out. But we don't know what the from the village's standpoint, we don't know what the long-term ramifications of that are.
Correct.
Whether or not that is going to end up being a positive or a negative. To John's point, it could be a positive.
100%.
Or it could end up being, a drain in that there's no set-off against the residential taxes.
So the village has,
I like to see, this needs to be approached with an open mind. You know, we cannot say the commercial is better than residential tax.
Nobody's
price. I don't-
saying that.
you know, that
That's-
would be a mistake if we do that.
nobody's saying that.
I think in
We
a way
want to
that's-
understand exactly what it is to
I-
have an open mind,
I think
to
that's the-
make those
I think
educated
that's the point of
decisions.
the
I
moratorium.
was
That's
gonna
the-
say, that's
I
the
think
6
right
months,
now,
which is,
right
yeah.
now, there are no applications pending or even in the pipeline relating to this issue.
No applications in the
Which-
pipeline, no
Which
applications
means that
pending,
it's a
no.
good time to put
Yeah.
it on ice until we get a sense of where the values are, so.
Yeah, but Mr. Chairman, if I read this, reason for this moratorium, maybe I did not read it correctly. It almost implies that we don't want to be going from commercial to homestead. Because from the tax revenue purpose, we don't want to lose the commercial tax base. And we're losing it. Whether we like it or not, we are losing it. And we need to think about how we're going to replace it. And is it the residential the best way to replace it?
That's what we want to
All right?
We don't know.
I think 6 months is fair, especially considering anyone that would take on one of these projects, the diligence period would be more than 6 months before they'd make an offer on a commercial property. So I think it's fair from our perspective.
I also think that since there are no applications pending, and there really haven't been any applications for a while, it's really a matter of depending on which side of the ledger you get the positive outcome, whether or not the village can create incentives to go in that direction. So that if it ends up being that commercial properties are really a real boon to the village in terms of its tax base and giving, residents sort of, a break on taxes, what sort of incentives can the village, would huge tax incentives up to a certain point, encourage commercial properties? Or if it's the opposite, then when they ask for tax reductions, you say no, because it's not in our interest. And I sort of think that, at least with one of our projects, there's been a big battle over whatever tax agreement there are for deductions and things like that. And at the end of the day, I don't know whether the deal is such a great deal for the village. I think John's point is that if the purpose of the moratorium is to figure out a way of keeping commercial property, that's really not the question. The question is whether or not it makes sense, whether we know what the situation is so that we can make a principled decision one way or the other. I think that's his concern. And I agree. I think the moratorium should be, I don't know, maybe there's phraseology we can put in there that makes it clear that it's not simply protecting commercial property. It's figuring out
It's an
whether or
analysis,
not that it's a
an
good
analysis
idea
of
to
which
begin with.
is better for the village and the revenue stream of the village.
Yeah.
Even the, what do you
Takes a
call
long
it,
time.
the future plan for the village, it talks about the demographics of the village is changing.
Yeah.
And whether we like it or not, it's going more towards residential in the last few years. If you just look at the boom in the school system, how we went from D, we are approaching C plus already in terms of the size of the school. It tells you alone that it's residential. Now, that defies, that contradicts my point about the taxation, because with the bigger school, you need more, you need more expenses.
We've moved away from the comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
Well, that's it. We don't really know how this fits into the comprehensive plan. And it
Well-
actually, look, we made a determination, I think, a year ago that the objectives of the comprehensive plan still made sense. But, that's subject to, a principled evaluation of whether or not the policies make sense. And if you take the incentives created by the comprehensive plan, maybe it's not the same now as it was then. Don't know. But anyway, I don't know, Robert, whether, you and I could maybe work out some language in the report or recommendation. But it's really just, I think to John's point, I think it sort of makes sense that the moratorium is really to evaluate this issue, whether or not a residential or commercial tax base is good for the village the way it's sort of been going on right now and on into the future. What is economically in the best interest of the village, going residential, going
Yeah.
commercial, and how much of one or the other.
And
Yeah.
That seems fair. That's not what it says right now.
Right, yeah, I think John's right about that, so, but.
what I would like to also see during this 6 months, a year, whatever it takes, I don't think it's an urgency. If you need to extend it to a year, do it. There should be some sort of a task force. I hate task force, but where it would be composed of the consultants and discipline, from the boards and various. I will study this question of taxation and where are we heading as a community, as the village, and because that really, I'm telling you right now, there is no homes to buy in this town.
It's true. And people who do, we face that too.
I made
You
over
want to
on
move
4
someplace and you
properties.
can't move here.
And the
'Cause
next
it's not
day, I
there.
find out the property was sold for a couple $100,000 more than what was initially the seller was asking. Come on, crazy.
So, for the limited purpose of the report and recommendation, it's really just to give your position on whether or not you support the idea of a moratorium so that the village board of trustees can examine all of these issues.
Yeah.
Where I want to be careful is that, a lot of what I'm hearing are legislative determinations to be made by the BOT.
Right.
So when we craft whatever kind of
Robert,
language
there
we
are
put in
two
there.
distinct, different issues here. There was no question on the first one. I was 100% sold on the need for a moratorium. On this one here, it is, what is it that you're going to do during the moratorium? And I don't really understand fully what the village intends to do during the moratorium.
I'd like to know what, also, because
was actually a question
it is a
about-
legislative issue.
What kind of studies, who's gonna be undertaking these studies? What are we gonna be, that's what I'd be
And who's
interested
going to
in.
be doing the studies and
Yeah,
how much,
frankly-
Well, I think a report and recommendation is just that. I mean, we can support the moratorium, but we can also recommend that the BOT take cognizance of certain issues of concern. One is that it's not just a matter of protecting commercial property, it's really determining whether or not promoting commercial property vis-a-vis residential property is good or bad for the village. That's one issue. And the second is that we would recommend that there be a task force or some other body established, charged with the responsibility of helping to evaluate this. Otherwise, it'll be 6 months and nothing will happen.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, if there are any opportunities out there to convert, they're not gonna happen because the moratorium is gonna be in place. So I think that, I can definitely work with you on language. I don't think we have to hold up anything. But I think at least those are the two concerns I see, coming out here. And I think they're sort of, legitimate because, there's a moratorium not used, effectively is just a waste of time.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere earlier, and it doesn't seem to be in the language anymore, but I thought I read something
I'm sorry,
earlier
Danny,
where.
could you speak up?
Sorry.
Yes,
I thought I read something earlier in the language, and it doesn't seem to be there now, that said something to the effect of the moratorium being for 6 months, but the Board of Trustees could extend at their discretion. Did I see something like
That's
that?
still there. That's
Yeah,
still
Yeah,
there.
so
Yeah.
they,
Still there.
they can extend that, but part of the reason that was placed into the report and recommendation was based on what the county of Westchester had put in their referral letter. They asked that if the board were going to extend the moratorium, that there be some type of measures in place to facilitate how the board does that. So that's what that was really intended.
Right,
I
just
also
to
think I
hop
would
on.
want to have to come back to the planning board to extend the moratorium. I mean,
But you also don't want it to go on indefinitely, nothing get done, to your point, right?
Yeah, I mean, look,
There are procedures for that, and that's what the council was saying. You have to meet a threshold to make that happen. You can't just extend it for no reason.
right.
it.
The board's gonna have to have some historical evidence of what eventually is going to be their conclusion, or their vote. And it's a very significant one. I think that they would be very foolish to not take all the time they need and be diligent about it.
Yeah.
Also, that raises the other question I had, I still don't have answered, is who's undertaking these studies? Like who,
It's gonna be up to the board of trustees. Frankly, I don't know.
so they'll hire third-party consultants to do this, basically? Okay, I'm just trying to understand what we're talking about here. All right, I got it.
We will,
think we have any,
Yeah.
Got it.
as a village, we will either do an RFP or we will do a solicitation for that or pursue under our professional agreements. We will pursue consultants to perform this type of work. The village has always been transparent in it.
Yeah.
We've always had either
That's
task
good.
forces or we've had
That's right.
groups of people involved, whether it's a chairman from each board. We've, as a whole village, we're very open about these types of procedures. So it will be all in the open, and they will pick a consultant or a company that will do what
Yeah.
they need.
Well, I mean, look, we have to have faith that the Board of Trustees is raise these issues because they want to address them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have to do anything. So I do think that, that with respect to the second, the law, I do think, the planning board can sort of make some, recommendations just to make sure that it's, to John's point, we're not focusing on only one side and not the other side. I think to approach this tax issue with an open mind makes a lot of sense to me. And, but you and I can work on that language. But in terms of what we want to send to the board, I sort of addressed those issues. We can circulate the report and recommendation if you guys want, to see what the language is.
I would love to see that, personally.
And it's only whatever this litmus test that we're using for this is really tax-based, nothing else. You're not looking at any other pros or cons or just a tax base, which I think it's a very narrow approach. I think there are more to a community than a tax base.
So I think for this one, the resolution would be to refer the report and recommendation after it's accepted. You would accept it now, subject to the condition that it's finalized in a final form approved by village council, and then you can also send it to the village board tonight.
Okay.
That makes sense. So whatever we wind up putting together,
Okay.
we'll have the authorization at this point to send it back to
Yeah.
them. This way, there's no
Yeah.
need for another meeting.
Exactly.
And
No,
a
I know.
moratorium would be a broader point of view rather than just narrow point of view or tax alone.
Yeah.
That's my only concern.
Yeah. I look at the
It's not to
BOT.
preserve the commercial tax base. That would, to me, that's a mistake.
Yeah, we want to preserve our tax base,
Right.
period.
The
Whatever it
highest,
is.
the maximum tax
Whatever
base.
it is.
I thought the object is to preserve the quality of life in the village.
We'll see what we can do about that. But, look, I think that the moratorium makes sense. I think that the BOT is going to be issuing the moratorium at their next meeting, which is Tuesday. Is it Tuesday?
They have the public hearing on both moratoriums.
Right.
Tuesday,
So,
I think I may have time just to see what they say.
so I think, and I want the moratoriums issued because at this point in time, I don't want anyone gaming the system by putting in applications
Right.
and then expecting to be grandfathered out of whatever.
I
rules
still
we
would
create.
be very clever on their part to circumvent the code regulations. I don't see, I don't see how they can maneuver that.
Vote.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, but our code is pretty rigid.
Anyway, can we, subject to the two modifications that we're going to make, is the resolution to,
It's to adopt
yeah,
the-
to
adopt the
to
report.
adopt the proposed local law acceptable?
Yeah. Well, I move it.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Grzan,
Yes.
Ms. Schoen,
Yes.
Mr. Teague.
Yes.
Mr. Weissman,
Yes.
Chairman Goodman.
Yes.
Same thing
Yeah,
for sending
and,
it to the
Yeah, motion and a
BOT.
second to report it out to the Board of Trustees.
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Grzan,
Yes.
Ms. Schoen,
Yes.
Mr. Teague.
Yes.
Mr. Weissman.
Yes.
Chairman Goodman.
Yes.
Thank you.
No one knows who to do it. Usually there are people that are.
I know.
Do we, does it look like we will have the meeting on the 11th of September?
Yes,
Okay, good.
there are one or two applications. And
All right, good.
Yeah. On September 11th, you're talking about.
Yeah, I think September, I think falls on the 11th, if I'm not mistaken, yes.
And I'm not going to be there, but maybe we can have a meeting. I'm not sure when I'm going away in like the second week, I think September 5th for like 10 days. So John is going to be covering the meeting for me, and also Scott Mendelson is going to sort of back up John. But I think it's good to sort of expose him to sort of our agenda meetings and things. So I would want to probably set up an agenda meeting before I leave, which may be a little bit on the early side, but I think it's a good way. Hopefully, we'll get some input from, Mr. Goldfarb on what they're doing in Kingsfield, so that we can have a discussion about this before, maybe more than the week before. So I'll let Michael know.
I
and
think
I'll send it
that's
out.
imperative that we have the agenda
I
meeting.
agree, yeah, yeah.
Definitely do.
Yeah, but I want to participate in that, so it'll be a little bit
Absolutely,
easier. Yeah.
absolutely, please.
Okay. All right, can I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Move.
Move.
All, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Hey, that was good, 1 hour.